All right, guys, this is Christian at b2bscale.io, and what we're going to be doing today is going over how to run a profitable agency. Because I see so many agency owners and online B2B businesses that just don't know how to actually run their agency profitably. And that's because you've never been taught how to do it. So you're just offering services, looking at what other people price themselves at, and saying, if that's what other people price themselves at, I might as well do it myself. It probably works, right? But as we know, or maybe you don't, now you do, average people get average results. Average business gets average results, but you're not here for average results. So we're going to talk about 4 things using our profit breakdown method, the b2bscale.io profit breakdown method to predict your profitability, using the margin sheet to predict your costs, using the b2bscale.io P&L prediction sheet to keep track of cash in the bank, which is important, and I'll explain why later. And of course, you're going to get resources for these 2 steps. And then I'll quickly talk about getting a bookkeeper to help you confirm the prediction. So it's a 4-step process that I do every month, and that you keep doing to keep track of your profit, how much you have in the bank, what you should be doing, what you should be spending on based on your numbers. So first, let's talk about using the b2bscale.io profit breakdown to predict your profitability. So this is not, there's no resource for this. It's just a mental frame and a mental framework that you use to actually understand how profitable you are. And I'll tell you what numbers you need to aim for with your agency. But before we go into that, you need to first understand specifically these 3 numbers. 1 is revenue, 2 is gross profit, 3 is net profit. A lot of people don't know the difference. Revenue, simple, it's how much money you collected. Gross profit, that's how much money is left over after your fulfillment expenses. Net profit is the total amount of money left over after all expenses. So this also takes into account acquisition, sales, and by acquisition, I mean, Facebook ads, cold email, whatever you do for marketing. Sales means your sales team, your appointment setters, closers, and any other softwares or tools or whatever that are not related to fulfillment. So first, you understand these numbers. Once you have that, you want to do something like this, which is what I did for my old agency, Digital Kairos, where we work with chiropractors, to understand what we call your gross profit margins, meaning what percentage of your revenue is left after you spend your money on fulfillment. And this number needs to be over 80%. And here's how you calculate it. I'll give you an example. So we had a 6K 3-month program. And I knew that my lifetime value, meaning revenue, how much revenue I collected for 3 months, was $5,991. Then what I did, and what you would do too, to understand these numbers, is you go over the fees for everything. Twilio fees for ads, 3 months, is about $100. Twilio fees for reactivation campaigns, $77.55. It's very specific, and you want to be as specific as possible. How much for my media buyer? $89 per client per month, because I'm paying her this much, and I know we have 15 clients. So this divided by 15 means I'm paying her this much per month. So for 3 months, it will be this much. How much for my call center, which I had at the time? This is how much I was paying total per month. 15 clients, this is how much per month, and for 3 months it's this much, and you keep doing that. Even my admin fees for the admin person. And ideally, if I was doing this today, what I would even add is like automation, something that I missed. Zapier, Go High Level, all these small tools. You want to be as specific as possible here. This is one of the most important things you can do in your business, because if you don't have these numbers right, or if you make a bad decision here, it's going to affect your business pretty heavily, right? If your margins suck. What I then found out is that my lifetime gross profit, meaning how much, not revenue is lifetime value, this is how much we collect after the fulfillment expenses, which we saw here, would be this much for the first few months. Now you divide 4,985.25 by 5,997, and you're left with a percentage, 82% in this case. So I know my gross profit margins are 83%. You want this number, again, to be over 80%. Gross margin for most of the people watching. For if you own an online B2B service-based business, which agency owners are, this needs to be over 80%. It doesn't need to be, but you want it to be over 80%. Because after that, you're going to have costs such as your sales team, as we talked about, your acquisition costs, paid ads, cold email, DMs, whatever you're doing, overhead, like softwares that are related to that. So 80% gross profit margins. And by the way, it's not hard to get 80% if you're an agency. You just need to know that this is what you're looking for. So that's step number 1, which is just doing the breakdown and understanding how profitable are we in terms of gross profit. And ideally, guys, just so you understand, and please don't listen to this before you make a decision based on these numbers, but in an ideal world, these will be your numbers. But there's no perfect thing, but these will be your numbers. Your sales team, you pay for 20% total, right? Let's say 10 to 50% for your closers, 5 to 10% for your setters. Fulfillment, 20%. We already went over that. 20% of your revenue would go towards fulfillment. Acquisition, about 10%. But truth be told, if you own an agency, so this is why I told you to listen up, you're not going to hit these numbers, most likely than not, which is fine. This is like ideal, like paradise numbers. You're not going to hit them, and that is totally normal. but you need to understand like this is maybe the thing that you want to go for. That's why I love organic marketing and we do it for our clients, because 10% acquisition cost, that's doable with cold email, DMs, and not as much with paid ads, even though it is possible. Fulfillment cost is very doable. Sales team, once you have that, 20%. But truth be told, again, this is net profit, what's left over. Here's the thing that I want you to take away from this. These are not perfect numbers, and I don't want you to make a decision based on these numbers. So what I mean is, if you have an acquisition cost that's 20% instead of 10, and you're like, I'm not gonna do it because it's higher than 10, do not do that. That's gonna mess you up. So please don't make a decision just based on these numbers, but I want you to give you an idea of what maybe you want to strive for. If your acquisition cost is 20%, instead of saying I should reduce how much I pay per client, maybe you should think to yourself, I should increase how much a client is worth to me by improving our product, by improving our retention. The next thing that I do to ensure profitability in my business, right? One, you understand how much you're actually paying per client. So we go over gross profit margins, and you want to make sure it's over 80%. You understand how much to allocate to each part of the business. Two is, this is something that I do on a monthly basis, and I always look back to it. Use the margin sheet that I'm going to give you in the description. So go check out the description to get the sheet to predict your costs. So I've already gone over this in another video, but this is a sheet that I use to go over how much I estimate that we're going to make on a monthly basis in revenue, and then how much are we going to pay? What are my costs, right? This goes over your expenses. So basically you have different expenses. So sales, so your closer and setters, Stripe processing fees, your team for non-acquisition purposes, team for acquisition purposes, except for the closer and setters, which are here, software and tools, right? And you're very specific with how much it costs. Legal professionals fees, bookkeeper, accounting, legal, lawyers, co-working spaces, professional investments such as coaching programs, or if you invest with us, that counts as a professional investment. Then it'll tell you your total expenses. I said I had one for before coaching and after coaching, just to help myself understand, because coaching it's not actually the business, even though obviously it helps you, it's not the real business. And then you'll find your profit before and after coaching. And I have Canadian USD because we're a Canadian company, and this gives you your margins. So every month I look at how much are we paying on every single expense that we have. You're very specific with this. How much do I think we're going to make in revenue? You downplay this. And by the way, these are random numbers, but you downplay this. Do not be optimistic, be pessimistic. You don't want to make a decision based on the ideal revenue that you're going to hit if you do all these things perfectly, because then you might make bad financial decisions. You ask yourself, if I messed up and I only did this much in revenue, what would my expenses need to be for me to actually not go out of business and be profitable to some degree? And then you have your profit margins. These are net profit margins, not gross, right? Because these are all your expenses. So you have access to this in the description below, and you can use it to track your expenses, and I would very much recommend it. The third thing you will do is to use our P&L prediction sheet to keep track of the cash that you have in the bank. It's right here, and you have access to this in the description below for free. Now, what I want you to understand about the sheet and why it's very useful is because the big mistake that a lot of agency owners do is they see that they're signing up clients from paid ads or cold email, whatever they're doing, and then they say, okay, let me scale that. Let me spend more on that. Let me spend more on paid ads, cold email, whatever it is. But one thing that they do not take into account a lot of times, which is dangerous, I know because I've been there, is how much cash they have in the bank. Here's why. Let me give you an example. Let's pretend that I was this agency and I was making, let's say, 20K per month. I have here are my expenses. I spend $3,800 on client acquisition, fulfillment $4,300, overhead, which is softwares and other tools and other expenses, business development, which is coaching and consulting, and taxes, right? These are random numbers, but let's say these were my expenses and I was making 20K per month, and this includes my salary. So my salary's in here. Let's pretend that's what it was, right? My expenses are $14,900 and my net profit, net income, 25.5%. So this would be total expenses, net profit. Okay, now I want to scale. We are profitable. I want to scale. Let me, you use this right here. Next month's monthly average. I want to be at 40,000 per month. So I change this number here to 40,000. Now, what's going to happen is the percentages here that you see, 19% on acquisition, 21% on fulfillment, they're going to stay relatively pretty similar, right? And if they're not going to stay similar, you can change these numbers yourself. But now, basically, the reason that you do this, you go, okay, I want to go from 20 to 40K, is that you will now know how much your expenses will be at 40K approximately, assuming that your profit margins stay the same, which they might not. And if they're not, you can change these numbers. But the thing that I want you to take away from this is that you have how much you're going to pay on expenses when you're at 40K per month, which is, let's say, is your goal. You want to go from 20 to 40K, or from 0 to 20K, or 10 to 20K. The things that you have to keep in mind before you go and say, let me spend this much on acquisition and do whatever it takes to hit 40K. Let's pretend, I'll just edit it for the sake of keeping things simple. Let's pretend you were spending 20,000 when you're at 40K. You've done the math and you know this is what I'm going to do. Before you go there, what you want to make sure is that you have at least, ideally, 60 days worth of expenses, meaning, in other words, 40K, because you're spending $20,000 every 30 days, at least 40K in cash in the bank before you decide to scale to 40K. Now, there are plenty of people who don't do it and that succeed. But what I'm saying is, ideally, actually, you would have 90 days worth of cash, and 120 days is like excellent. But before you say, let me go to 40K, you want, basically what I want you to take away from this, and you can use this sheet to kind of play around with it, you want to know how much cash you have in the bank. And you want to make sure that you have enough cash to weather bad things that might happen. Because here's the thing, if you're spending, let's pretend this was spent on Facebook ads, you're spending this much on Facebook ads and it's going well, and then you decide to spend this much, you do not know what's going to happen. Now, maybe in your mind, you're thinking like it's going to go perfectly and I'm just going to double my number of meetings and everything's going to go well. But for all you know, maybe Facebook restricts your ad account, or maybe it doesn't work. Like you do a new campaign, it just doesn't work. Now you're wasting money. And if you don't have this money in the bank to kind of weather the potential mistakes or potential errors that might come up, you're not going to be in a great situation when those things do happen. And it's better to assume that they will than they won't, because you want to look at the worst case scenarios. So in other words, you're going to use this sheet to kind of predict how much are my expenses going to be once I scale, and how much cash should I have in the bank based on those expenses. You look at these numbers. This is based on this one, but you can just change this number if you want to. So you look at how much cash you need in the bank to be able to be safe if something were to go wrong. And the final thing, it's very simple. Just get a bookkeeper to do your monthly bookkeeping, just so you can confirm that these numbers are right. So you use this margin sheet to go over your numbers, this to go over your cash in the bank, and then you have a bookkeeper on a monthly basis, or maybe even a weekly basis once you get to that level, who goes and says, yes, you are right, this is how much cash we have in the bank. They confirm that for you. They confirm your expenses. They confirm that you haven't missed anything here. So you just want a bookkeeper to double check that for you. And of course, the bookkeeper knows the real numbers, so you can always go back to that. And I'm going to end this video by letting you guys know what we do at B2Bscale.io. If you'd like to book a call with us, for this month, at least, we could only take on 5 people. In 10 days of marketing, 4 spots are gone. We have 1 spot left when I'm filming, but when you're watching, it might be different. So feel free to book a call. We will improve your offer, help you close more deals on that offer, place you a $3 an hour trained setter to run the systems that we're going to build for you, which includes cold email, Facebook DMs, Twitter DMs, reactivations, paid ads. We'll write your script, scrape your list, give you a course on how to use all these systems, and it's a one-time program. So once you've invested with us and you're done with the investment, you keep these systems and you know how to use them, because the course teaches you how to do that. And it's a 4-month program as I'm filming this. You have one-on-one access to our team to learn how to do this. And as a guarantee, if you don't get 10 clients in 4 months when working with us, we will give you all your money back, no questions asked. So if you want to potentially book a call to see if this might be a good fit for you, just book a call below. It's in the description. And this is, just in case you don't know, mainly for agency owners, but also for any B2B business that works online. So that is it. See you in the next video.